If you are struggling with chess improvement, then this video is for you. I am going to be breaking down in this video what I've used to move from an average chess player to now a pro. I am a feeder master, and these are the tips in which you need to start using. Now, we're going to get into it. Ensure that you're taking notes. I'm going to go into like a deep dive with one of my games, and it's going to break down everything, guys. Especially for the middle game phase where most persons tend to actually just lose everything. The mindset, the thought process, how you can implement it in your games. All of this is here, so stay tuned. Alright, so for this game, my opponent opened the game with pawn to d4. We won't talk too much about the opening because what we really want to know is like what is going to happen in the middle game phase. What you can implement and skyrocket your chess elo. So queen to e7 and e3. Now I wanted to take note that this to most persons might look a little bit off, like why is he moving his queen and why is the bishop stepping out to b4. And this is where you sometimes kind of like get to dive into your openings a little bit deeper. Now here, I am planning to castle my king super quickly. So by getting out my first two pieces, this is super good. And I am now allowing white to capture on my terms if he wants to do so. So if he takes, in other words, like bringing my queen into the game, then this is benefiting the black's position because again, it's like I'm developing with tempo. So queen here, if he takes my bishop, my queen gets in. So instead he played pawn to e3, and now I took on d7. No, d2. No, this is going to be the first thing. Again, you guys write down. So bishops help to control weak squares. The minute he took back, I started putting my pawns on dark squares. So here, d6, and this is simply for the bishop on c8. Practice to actually utilize your pawns to complement your pieces. If you have pawns blocking out your piece activity, something is getting done completely incorrectly. Here, he played bishop to e2, pawn to e5, and now we had pawn takes e5. And I've again covered in past videos that again, like to take is a mistake, guys. Like if it's not benefiting your position, don't practice to do it. Now, what you can use to know if like the position is going to be better or if the capture is actually going to benefit you is to simply ask yourself, what piece improved with my last capture? If you literally have the same exact position and all you're seeing now is like an exposed d file for your queen, it might look harmless now, but long term this is going to get punished, especially if you're playing against higher rated opponents. So we now have pawn takes e5. If I ask myself how was black's position improved, I see that my queen here on e7, it was boxed in before, and now it completely has access along this diagonal. Remember, these minor improvements look small now, but compounded becomes a huge plus. So you have to ensure that you are not taking material unprovoked. So we know how castles and castles. Both persons are simply getting their king out the center. And this is normally where most persons get confused with, again, their chess understanding. Now, they will be up in development. Like everybody here would be like white has a lead in development. And even though this is true, his pawn play, his pawn center is not 100% better. Now, you're going to realize in a series of moves that white is going to get completely outplayed from this position. And it's already currently, it's like 0.18 for black. And we're going to have it now. So we have pawn to b3. Now remember, you want to limit your pawn moves as much as possible, especially if it's again blocking out your pieces. His queen needs to start looking for active squares. So in other words, by him putting his pawn on b3, he could be telling himself that he's playing solid. But if you're not doing this aggressively, like if your pawn play isn't being aggressive, I'm going to show you an example later on in the game. Like I played pawn to c5. And after queen to c2, I played this move, pawn to e4. And this is how I want you guys to move your pawns. Like if it's getting super aggressive, like your pawn play is restricting pieces, guys. Now, even though I am behind in development, quote unquote, White is on the verge of losing already. This is 1.3 for the black pieces, or negative 1.3, depending on how you want to look at it. And why is this so, even though black has only 2 pieces out? Now, I want you guys to take a look at the position on a broader basis, and we're going to realize that it is really easy for black's pieces to get into the game. And for white, again, his rooks, they're not connected. The knight, you have 3 points of material blocked out by a pawn. And this is what you use to know if you're gaining space or overextending with your pawns. If your pawns are restricting pieces, that is space, guys. If your pawns are like pushed too far down the board and your opponent's pieces start to slip through, that is overextending. No, I played q to e5. I'm even showing you that I have time for all of this. So he has a cluster of pieces in the center of the board, but this is not coordination. In chess, you want all your pieces to be coordinated. Everything is supposed to have like a natural flow. Like example, right here, I simply played this move, knight to c6. And everything is coming with tempo, guys. I'm threatening to put my knight on b4 if he gives me the chance. And you guys know, again, you always look for moves in your opponent's side of the board. And that is, again, how you get super aggressive in chess. So, knight to c6. My opponent is now wasting time with moves like a3. And again, by me looking like I am down in the behind in development by a series of moves, it's literally 1, 2. Everything is showing itself right now. And it is actually white who needs to sort out the position. Now, I want you to take notes. Again, pawn play helps with space, but ensure that it is not restricting your own pieces. What you want your pawns to do instead is to complement your pieces and restrict your opponent's pieces. Now, at this level, I'm telling you, a lot of persons hate to play with bad pieces because you just don't get a certain rating without actually implementing the right system. So he played now knight to b1, and this is actually the top recommended move by the engine. In the middle game, you want to start improving your pieces. Like anything that is not doing work, you want to swing it into the game. And this knight, again, is having his pawns on the wrong squares. Like example, his knight is getting restricted by its own pawns. By putting it on b1, he could actually start to look for better squares. And what do we do in the middle game, guys? Let's see who is paying attention. Nice, we improve our pieces. I'm swinging my rooks to open fast. The more squares I control in my opponent's half of the board, the more dominant my position is going to be. So here he played knight to c3. And I also want you guys to take note that my queen is stopping the knight from getting to d5. This is also the advantage of you having very active pieces. Like your opponents won't be able to go forward. If my queen was back chilling on a vacation, then again, like you would have access. Like your opponents will suddenly start to get moves in the game if your pieces aren't active enough. Now here I played bishop to g6, and this is the reason I'm telling you guys. If you take notes, things are going to be like a much easier for you guys. Like here, what did I say bishops are good at? They're good at controlling weak squares. So if I want to access the d3 square long term, I would simply look to get this light square bishop off the board. Plus, I like to compare pieces. Like, I'm like, which bishop is going to actually do more? Like, my bishop on f5, yes. Is it going to have like a big role in this game? Maybe, maybe not. So, he wasn't creating like any obvious weaknesses right now. All I was looking at was the d3 square. But right now, this man is having a headache and he's like, my knight needs to get out. And he played this move, pawn to g3. Suddenly, my bishop on g6 is now starting to look a little bit better than my opponent's bishop. So I want you guys to, again, look at like piece comparison. Your pawn play has to benefit your pieces. Ensure that whenever you're trading, again, like your remaining pieces are better. All that kind of stuff. And in this position, remember, bishops help to control weak squares. I simply looked to get my bishop into the game on those squares. And we're going to see how this plays on later down. Now, knight to g2. This is your first test. And a lot of persons here, again, this might be a little alien to you guys, which is why you are going to improve your chess understanding by grasping this. His knight wants to get to f4 and then to d5. This is the reason why higher rated opponents will actually whittle their ways to better positions, or just like completely outplaying you guys if you don't understand these types of principles in which I'm telling you in this video. What do pawns do? They help with space, restrict. It's pawn structure. Complement your pieces while restricting your opponents. Now he wants this f4 square. So the move I played here is a pawn move that restricts that. And it's this move pawn to g5. Now, this is going to bring us to another topic that I have to discuss for you guys to ensure that this is 100% clear. Yes, you guys have been told that you're not supposed to push pawns in front of your king. And this is a general principle. Now, how do you know when a king is truly weak? So in other words, you're going to understand that this king is weak. This king is not. And just stay tuned. The difference in the two of the kings just right now is the amount of access my pieces has towards his king. So right now, it's easy for me to get my pieces towards that king side. It's not so obvious how white with his uncoordinated pieces is going to formulate attack against my king. So you can think about it like this. If I have a weak king, but there is no way for your opponent to get access points to it, then it's not really as weak as you think. This, however, it's flooding with holes. And he played rook takes d8. He's probably thinking to like get the pieces off the board and go into an endgame. But what did I tell you about controlling squares in your opponent's half? I am simply gaining more control, guys. Played rook to d1 in the game. And I took, and look, I am just replacing squares with pieces. So queen to d6. All I'm doing is looking for a way to control more squares in my opponent's half. And this is also what I mean by coordination. It's like we're playing like team tag or whatever you want to call that one. Like, what's this piece moved from e5? What other piece could like swing into the game? The c6 knight. So after bishop to e2, we are now having combinations. I am looking at all my pieces. So this is exactly what you guys need to start implementing in your games. Just look. Coordination. Every piece. Swing it into the game, guys. Restrict your opponent's pieces. And by the time you check it, it's going to be very hard for them to find moves, and then boom. It's good night. So here, he played h4. He's lashing out. This is again another test. Do we A? Take on a4. Do we B? Push pawn to g4, or do we C? Play pawn to h6. So the moves are takes, g5, g4, or h6. And let's see who is actually paying attention. Is g4 gaining space or overextending? All right. For g4, if your answer was space, you're big and wrong. Like, again, rewatch the video. g4 is allowing pieces to slip through the cracks. The difference between space and overextending is if you're restricting pieces, like space, you're restricting pieces, complementing your own pieces. Overextending is when you're allowing pieces to slip through the cracks. So just ensure that you're not doing this. So the correct move in this scenario is actually pawn to h6. And this is officially a great move by chess.com. So h6, and the knight is still boxed in. White in the game tried knight to b5, and this again is your second test of this video. We know that we preach about activity a lot, guys. Like, I cannot stress this enough in my videos. Here, do we go to b8, b6, or d7? If your answer was b8, you're wrong. If your answer was b6, you're also wrong. The move I played in this scenario is queen to d7. And this is literally where the game ended. So, my opponent didn't understand the rule of activity and took the cookie, the bait on a7, and as you can see, the bar to the left side of our screen here is going crazy. And this is where you guys need to, like, again, wake up and start looking at your opponent's half of the board. Activity is what plays chess, guys, not pawns. Pieces. You utilize pawns for space, get your pieces up the board. And what you're realizing is that by me having my pawn on e4, it is complementing pieces. So look, knight to f3. When I'm looking for tactics, I look for my checks, my captures, my threats. I have now launched a knight into my opponent's side of the board, and if he takes, I mean, that's just easily put, like you just simply capture back. This is called a discovered attack. Whenever you have like two pieces on like the same line, especially like your minor piece against like somebody's major piece, if you can move the piece in front of your minor piece, also like with like tempo, you can actually look out for tactics. So here we have now knight to f3 and king to h1. Now I also said this again, like, remember, just like past videos, like whenever you see like a king is stalemated, if you're attacking and a king is stalemated, that means that all it needs is a check for it to be checkmate, guys. So you look how you can actually again improve your position, like moves in your opponent's side of the board. I am not trying to be like stockfish or like Nakamura, where like takes. We do that once everything is optimized. So we have no knight to g4 on the board, and we're threatening checkmate in one. I also want you guys to realize that I'm not really doing anything too deep when it regards to my calculation. You want to keep chess as simple as possible. Like, trust me, you'll have those times when you have to get like super complex, but in general, try to keep chess as simple as possible. So here we have bishop to f1, and that was a fantastic arrow. Stockfish needs to understand this as well. This is perfect stuff, guys. Bishop to f1 on the board, and we need to ask ourselves, what was a piece defending before? And let's see who remembers what that principle is called. It's called the drawback principle. Trust me, guys, the drawback principle has to be one of the biggest tactics persons see a lot in their games to ensure that you're using it. And it's one of those tactics that, again, just like transfers over to your games. You don't see this unlike chess.com in terms of puzzles. It's things you work on actively. Like here, you can actually see what a piece was defending before, and you simply try to capitalize. We want knight takes f2 to come with checkmate, but we have a defender, the queen on c2, protecting that square. We combine both of this with this move, queen to d1, and we're now forking the bishop on f1 and the queen on c2. Queen moves, we simply again just like captures, and knight takes f2 is checkmate. The queen is unable to do anything, like it can't run away. Queen takes f1 is checkmate, and most importantly, if the queen is captured on d1, then knight takes f2 is a fork and checkmate as well. So we're gonna like roll this back right now to get everything clear. Pawns must, again, for the 100th time in this video, complement your pieces and restrict your opponent's pieces. 2, ensure that you're controlling squares in your opponent's side of the board, and don't be like my opponent, which just grabs pawns and is materialistic in chess. Bishops help to control weak squares. Difference between if a king is weak or if it's not weak is if your opponent can actually get access towards those weak squares. So this is more weak than this. I want you to realize that even though it's not possible for my opponent to get towards my king, like, share, subscribe for more videos like this, and thanks again for watching, guys. See you again another time.